Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. Excited for today's guest. She's a business strategist and a leadership coach. And what she does is she helps people to get over the weenie inside and start their business already. I'm just trying to say that the way you'd think it. Very excited to be rocking out today with Katie McManus. Hey, Katie, you ready to rock?
I am ready to rock, Tim. Thank you. And you did great. Channeling my voice about the inner weenie.
Well, you know what? I feel the same way. Start the business already. So now we always start off here on a good note. So tell me a story of success in your business that we can be inspired by.
Yeah. Well, my success story is very tied to my failure story. I basically jumped too soon, was not set up for success when I first went full-time in my business. And I rebounded from about $50,000 in debt during before the pandemic, but leading into it, and have built my business to multiple six figures, only using organic marketing techniques, posting to LinkedIn primarily, and by really honing in on who it is that I serve and not getting what I call can-do-itis, which I think a lot of people get because they're like, oh yeah, I can do that and I can do that and I can do that. And it just makes their marketing super messy.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing, especially in this climate, because there's a lot of people that are going the opposite direction. And, you know, for you to jump right out of that, that's awesome. What would you say was the secret to that?
The secret to that, I think, was realizing where I had gaps. So I come from a background in sales. And so running sales calls, enrolling clients was never a problem for me, but getting people to the call was like the missing element. And so I invested in myself. I signed up for coaches. I signed up for LinkedIn trainers. I really found the people who were doing stuff that fit my personality and like invested in sessions with them, did every single damn thing that they told me to do. And I just kept doing it, even when it didn't give me automatic returns. And then I kept doing it, even though we're 3 months in and it still hadn't given me anything. And 5 months in, it just started working. It just started working. And I really also paid attention to what was going on in the world. We're not building businesses in a vacuum. We have to look towards the outside world and see what is necessary here. When I started my business, I actually was a dating coach for men in San Francisco Bay Area. I was convinced because I was a single woman there. I was like, I'm going to go out and fix these guys. We really need this. I'm going to do this for the good of all womankind in San Francisco. And I got primarily all women clients. And that taught me, I know. So I got one dude and 8 women in my practice. And this is on the side of my business, my 9-to-5 job. But what was funny about that is I was like, oh, cool. That the universe does not want me just working with men. The universe wants me working with women on this topic. And what was funny is only one of my female clients actually stuck with the dating topic. Everyone else, we ended up talking about how they were showing up at work and what their executive presence was like and how they were at setting boundaries with their boss and their coworkers and their direct reports, because how they were showing up at work and being really sloppy with all that was getting directly in the way of how they could even have a personal life. Wow. And so I actually started a fairly successful leadership consulting and coaching business with that base. And it was funny because I was out to dinner, I think, with some coach friends of mine. We'd gone to the same training program. And I'm telling them about, how well things are going. And they're like, wait a minute, how did you do that? Because we're still giving out free sessions. We're still like trying to get people just to be interested in what we're doing. And here you have like a bustling practice on top of your 9-to-5. How did that happen? And so I start kind of laying it out for them. And it was one of those moments where you don't realize that you have all the puzzle pieces that other people are missing. I come from sales. I am an avid marketing book reader. I just had figured out how to do this in-person networking thing to get clients, and I'm laying it out for them. And I got calls like the next week saying, oh my God, I just landed my first high-paying client. And then a month later, it's like, oh my God, I'm up to 3. Like, what you teach really works. You need to start charging for this. And so I started listening. I was like, okay, cool. Maybe I'll just add this to my list of offerings. And what happened was, my leadership business was still growing. This part of my business was still growing. By the time the pandemic hit, it was really 50-50 of income from either side. And of course, we know what you can imagine what happened to my leadership side of my business when the pandemic hit. A lot of companies freaked out and were like, we can't spend money on this anymore. And a lot of my clients were getting it subsidized from their jobs, so they couldn't pay for it because they were also panicking that they might get laid off.
Yeah.
And a lot of them did, unfortunately. But so I had a moment of freaking out, thinking like, oh my God, am I going to have to sell pictures of my feet on the internet, to make ends meet? Thankfully, I never had to, because, all these people who are getting laid off, or who were at least afraid of it, it was that real kick in the ass that they really needed to go and start their business already.
Wow. Wow.
So
Amazing.
it
Amazing.
was fun. Yeah.
Well, and like, there's so many things to take out of that. Like, so number one is that I'm not surprised that men are really bad at asking for help and taking help. And it's something that we really need to change, because I mean, or maybe not. I mean, it's a great opportunity for women, really, because you guys are willing to ask for help and to go get coaching, and you're crushing it in business right now. So this is great. But like, the other part of it is that it is really easy nowadays to find help to get to where you need to go, because of the fact that so many people are now moving to Zoom to do coaching meetings. And so you don't have to, it's not hard to find a coach. And not only that, but it's not hard to find a coach that matches your style, because the pool is everywhere. Right? It's not just in your local market right now. You don't have to go to a business meeting down the street and that's the only guy that you can hire.
Totally.
Right? You can get anybody from anywhere in the world now.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I mean, when I was getting clients in San Francisco in 2018, 2019, I would literally go to, there were 3 bars in the financial district where I would just go and, like, with a couple of friends, and we'd just make friends. And when they asked what I did, I'd say, oh, I'm a dating coach for men, or I'm a leadership coach as I evolved. And that's essentially how I would get clients, is that networking, because you build that friendship, you build that trust, and then, you continue the conversation afterwards. When everything moved online, like, that was a jump for me.
Yeah.
But once you hack that, once you figure out a style for yourself, that works, like, there's no stopping you. It's like alchemy. You can basically turn a LinkedIn post into gold in 24 hours.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So now let's bring it down a little bit, because not everything goes as planned in anything. But now, what was the bad note? Like, what was something that didn't go as planned, and how can we recover from that?
Yeah, well, we have to go before I started my business to get to this point. So in 2017, October 22nd, my mother's birthday, I actually was in a really serious car accident, and it wasn't my fault, but I was T-boned. The other driver was going 50 miles an hour, with 6 inches from basically like being paralyzed or dead. But I had a massive concussion, like a mild traumatic brain injury. And so I actually had to be on disability from my job for about 8 months, because part of the concussion was I couldn't read for like, I had a very hard time. My brain couldn't process what my eyes were seeing on a screen. And I don't know if you've ever had a concussion. I hope not. Have you? Don't
No,
recommend.
I haven't.
I highly don't recommend it. And if anyone's listening, if you're thinking about getting one, please just abstain from it. It was miserable. But in the same period of time, I managed to get myself into 5 months of an abusive relationship, with a man who ran through a lot of my savings, used up a lot of my money, some with me knowing and some with me not knowing. And so by the time I was healed and recovered and away from him, I was going back to work and just struggling a great deal from everything that I'd been through. And this is like, I had literally just started my business in this time period as well. So I was basically starting with like no cushion, going back to work and going back to work in a job that had already bored me to tears before the concussion, and before I discovered this magical thing that I love doing, because I also got trained as a coach in that time. And so it was so much harder to stay invested in my days when I was going back to my regular sales job.
Yeah.
And so I I was a little too optimistic. I jumped before I really had the bandwidth and like had the solid income coming in. And I was good for about a month and then I panicked. I absolutely panicked. Like I had no savings at that point. I was trying to make it work. I'd rented an office, which I don't recommend to new business owners. I made all the mistakes that are classic to new business owners. So I tried to go back and get another job to carry me through starting this business. And I got to the final interviews with 3 different companies, and I have never not been hired for a job that I've interviewed for. I interview really well. And I kept getting the same feedback. Like, we think you're an amazing coach and we think you should just go do that. And I was like, I'm trying, but I need someone to pay me in the meantime. And so I ended up getting myself into a fair amount of debt. Some of that was from the past relationship. Some of that was from me just being bad with money. And there was a point in December 2019 where I, was making money in my business, but I was also on the verge of bankruptcy. And I remember sitting in an alleyway in Brooklyn, New York. I was at this money relationship workshop, which I desperately needed and was like hitting all of the pain points in my life. And I'm sitting on this staircase that goes to like a back door of an office building. And there are people walking back like to lunch. And here I am just like sobbing and I have snot and it's December. So it's cold and it's windy. And like, I have my big puffer jacket and I'm just like wiping my nose with the inside. And I'm thinking like, oh my God, am I going to be able to afford to like dry clean this afterwards? And I'm on FaceTime with my coach, just sobbing and just completely melting down inside. And I felt like such a huge failure. And I couldn't imagine like life could go on from this because I had never dug myself into this deep of a hole and not seen a way out. And my coach at the time, Rick, was so pivotal in me getting through this moment. He's like, great, let's just be with you being a failure. You've ruined your life. Like, this is it. Like, just let that out. Let that be true for just a minute. Grieve what needs to be grieved right here, right now. And once I got that out, I was able to get back into what's the next thing I can do. But I couldn't go from I'm carrying all this weight. I'm carrying all this feeling of sadness and disappointment in myself, and also create a business that was super successful. I had to actually be in that moment and go through like, I've done the worst. And I hate to say this to some of my clients, but we all have to have some version of that moment before we get over the fear of just going out and putting ourselves out there. Of asking for something and having someone say no. Because once you face the worst, like I'm not afraid of anything right now. Well, that's not true. I'm terrified of spiders. But
other than that, yeah.
Other than that, but if I have a low month, I'm not terrified of the next month. And when you're a business owner, you just have to build this skin or this tolerance to that roller coaster of emotions. Because in the beginning stages, the first few years, things are very unpredictable.
Yeah.
And
wow.
so that's my failure story.
Wow. Okay. Wow. There's so much there. But I mean, I totally get it. I mean, when you get to the point, it is messed up really that we have to hit a rock bottom in order to, and whatever that rock bottom is. I mean, some people go way further down into a rock bottom, but whatever that point where you feel like it can't get any worse for you, right, that's when things start to move around the other direction. Yeah. And a lot of people stay in a comfort zone forever, and maybe that's the reason why they never really hit those high points, is because they've never hit a low point. Right. So sometimes taking those risks and falling down is the best thing that can happen to you, because then you can only go up from there. Right.
Yeah. It's funny. I saw this study a few years ago about how like, childless people, like the happiness levels of childless people versus parents. And it's funny, they were saying that childless people overall have a higher rate of happiness, but they don't reach the peak that people who are parents reach. Right. But the reason like parents have a lower level of happiness is that it's like this huge like jump up, down, all around based on, you know, things that are going right and wrong with their kids' lives.
Yeah. Yep. I totally get it. I totally get it. It's probably like a similar average, but they get those ecstasy moments, whereas you
Yeah.
don't normally get those. Yeah. And for me in my story, like I used to work for a large company as a programmer, and uh, in IT, I graduated in 2000, and that's when really the bubble burst. So I went through 8 years with that company of layoffs and layoffs and layoffs. And so I never really got an opportunity to understand what it's like to be comfortable and
Right.
like with money, right? Like, I mean, it was just like, I remember distinctly going like, okay, here's my pay for for these 2 weeks. All right, I got another one. Let's hope that the next one comes in. Like, you just I like, and I know that like a lot of people talk about stable job. You don't get this stable job. I don't even know what that means, right? And so when it came to being self-employed after that, I think that's probably why I never really worried too much about the next 2 weeks, because, well, as a job, I was in the same boat. At least this time I'm a little bit more, I've got more control over it. Before,
Right.
it was like the employer could just say, okay, you're done. At least this time I was like, okay, well, I can go out and hustle and I can make another 2 weeks worth of money. And, and so I think that that is uh, kind of good in my point. And I think a lot of people are probably maybe thinking the same thing, especially now in the world, because I think a lot of jobs are not stable as they once were.
Right.
So, maybe that can be something like, hopefully someone's listening to that and going like, yeah, I don't feel stable. Well, that's what it's like to be self-employed.
Yeah. Well, and
So
have you read the book, The Psychology of Money?
no, I'm gonna
I
write that down.
So I highly recommend this to you and to anyone who's listening. So one of the things that I really had to reckon with through all of this is that I had the worst relationship with money. You know, I used to joke with a roommate that we were still paying off margaritas that we'd bought 7 years before, because
Wow.
we had this fear that if we admitted we couldn't afford something, that our friends would actually ditch us, that we wouldn't be able to hang. And we were living in San Francisco, which is one of the most expensive cities in the world. And we were making six figures, but barely. And that's really, I mean, the poverty level living in San Francisco, you
Yeah.
barely afford to live.
Yeah.
Um, and we also, I had this optimism, like it'll always come through, but there's this model that I kind of made up, these different archetypes. It's like the nail biting trusting manifester, because it's like things always work out, but you're still paying interest on the last thing that worked out.
Yeah.
you know and I really had to realize, okay, cool, this is no longer working for me. How I'm treating money right now is not healthy, and it's not serving me. But this
Yeah.
book really, really underlines, like, it depends on when you were born. It depends on what your family talked about at the dinner table. You getting clean on your relationship with money is so pivotal in being able to actually start a business that's successful.
Yeah. Well, and I think I don't know if it's programming or whatever it is, but most people, probably 99% of people, have a bad relationship with money, whether you have a lot of it or not.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I know just as many people who are massive savers, that when you think about what they sacrifice, in terms of like living life in order to keep that money, is crazy. And then on the opposite side of it, the spenders too. Like, it's just, it's really difficult to find somebody who has a really good relationship with money, and including myself. I don't either. Like, it's
Right.
one of those things where we really have to, I think that's why coaches and mentors come into play, because you really need somebody else outside of you that's not gonna like, not one of those comforting friends who's going to say, "Oh no, everything's fine. You're doing great." You need somebody who's going to call you out on some bad decisions, right?
Totally. Absolutely. Well, and I love that you brought up the word friends, because if we think of money as a friend in the world, if you're really stingy in your saving, I want you to imagine you have this friend, but you're terrified they're going to go away, so you kind of lock them in your basement. And you go down and you
Yeah.
hang out with them sometimes, but otherwise you're like, no, you're not allowed to leave. Like, you're my only friend. If you leave, I have nothing.
Yep.
You know, think of like how that friend would view you. Are they going to want to hang around you?
Yeah.
Likewise, a lot of people are terrified of being seen as like the evil money grubbing, like I love money, I want more of it. You know, we have this archetype in our mind of like Scrooge McDuck, who's doing like the backstroke through his piles of gold.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, can we just pause and imagine how defined his back muscles must be from doing that every day? Like, I aspire to having muscles that defined. Anyway, but instead of being open about, you know, loving money and wanting more of it and inviting into your world, it's kind of like being in high school, and having, you know, you have a crush on someone. So money has a crush on you. And then you catch yourself walking down down the hallway and talking to a friend, and you're saying, oh, money, I don't care about it. I don't care about it. Like, it can go do whatever. Like, I don't care. I don't care if it lives or dies. And
Yeah.
imagine money, your friend, is right behind you,
Yeah.
and they have a crush on you, and they've just been completely depleted because, you know, or defeated because you just said that thing that, you know, they care so much about you, and you're saying you don't care at all about them. Like, are they going to want to hang out with you?
Wow. Yeah.
And if we think about money, it's essentially energy, you know, just like love is energy.
Yep. Yep. It's energy and it's a tool. I
Right.
mean, I think that that's the thing, is that, yeah, we've been programmed to be one or the other. Either you hate money, you think that it's evil and that it corrupts, which it sometimes does,
Yeah.
or you want to keep all of it. And you're,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and it's just it's neither of those two things. It is just a tool. It's energy, right?
Well,
Yeah.
money essentially just makes you more of who you are.
Yeah.
If you're an evil scumbag, great. You're going to be like a massive evil scumbag. And if you're a really good person, it's going to make you an amazing person because you're going to be able to do so much good with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Hi, it's Marc Mawhinney from Natural Born Coaches, and I want to give two very big thumbs up to Tim Melanson and his Creative Crew agency. I have been using them for a long time, and I am 100% happy. They get the job done right, they're fast, and they let me focus on my business. I don't have to worry about anything. So again, I want to give them two very big thumbs up. I have no problem recommending them. I don't give testimonials for everyone because my name is attached to it, but I gladly do so for Tim and the Creative Crew agency. So use them, you won't regret it, and good luck.
Now, on the other hand, I think the major difference is we all want, we all would be probably better off. We all would be better off if we had more money. I think that's pretty obvious. But now what you do to get that money is different, because I think that that's where I know my journey changed drastically when I started a career that made great money. However, I hated every moment of it. and then I sort of went,
like,
I wonder what that's like. And so, you know, it's one of those things where, okay, take a step back here. Okay, what do I really want to do? Because, you know, in especially in today's world, and we talk about this every week on this podcast for sure, about people that are doing things that they really like to do and still making ends meet, right?
Yeah.
And maybe even more than that. So, you know, I think that that's really, you know, if you're just doing it for money, well, then maybe your heart's not in the right space. Maybe do something that you love doing and that is helping people and providing value to people, because that's where money gets exchanged, is through value, right?
Yeah, 100%. You know, it's funny you point there, because I have a lot of clients and I talk to a lot of people who actually feel so guilty asking for money for doing something that they would do for free anyway.
Totally.
You know?
Totally.
There's so many coaches out there who are just so passionate about helping people that when it comes to asking for money, it's like, well, no, like I can't ask for someone to pay me to do something that I love. You know, it's like getting paid to like play video games or to like do your hobby.
As a musician.
Yeah, exactly. Playing music. Could you imagine if you love doing that? Like, are you allowed to be paid for doing something that you love? Like the model that we've been taught is like, you have to go and suffer at work and then you get to retire in 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that.
Work's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be grueling. That's why you get paid for it, type thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not necessarily true.
No, not at all.
It's a matter of what kind of value you're giving to somebody. If you love providing value to people, then of course you should be compensated for it, right?
Exactly. Yep.
We got a lot of messed up programming that we need to work through, right? So let's talk a little bit about getting fans and finding people that are looking at you and actually wanting to follow you. What is your approach to that?
So the biggest mistake I see done out there, and this is something I did myself when I first started, is people going out and trying to be the expert, right? They're going out and they're posting on social media, and what they're basically trying to do is prove to people who really don't give a damn that, hey, I'm an expert. I know everything about this topic. You should trust me, blah, 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 blah. If you have this problem, come and talk to me. And sometimes that works. Like if you're hyper relevant. So like Anthony Fauci during the pandemic, he got hyper relevant. People really cared about what he had to say. Whether you agreed with him or didn't agree with him. Personally, I agreed with him. But anyway, but his expertise is kind of boring besides, there being a massive pandemic that affects everyone. Like who really wants to hear about the statistics of this and the numbers of that, right? If he goes on social media when there's not a massive pandemic happening and is sharing about it, it's only going to be relevant to a very, very small group of people. So my approach to marketing is really like letting myself be seen and relating very empathically with my ideal clients. So this can look like sharing my personal story, sharing something funny that happened to me the other day with my dog, sharing something that's kind of personal to me about my learning and how I started my business, and then saying, hey, I see you. So my ideal clients typically are struggling with this idea of, I want to start a business. I know exactly what I want to do, but how do I even get clients? And how do I charge them? And what should I price my offering at? And what is my offer? And how do I tell people about it? And how do I get on social media and brag about and like tell people how good I am without bragging about me? And really people just need to hear that you see those problems and hear that you're normalizing them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
And so once you do that, because ultimately when you're posting on social media to get clients, like once you tell them, hey, I get you so well that I know the fears and the frustrations that you haven't even voiced to your closest friends yet, I'm naming them in this post. They don't need to know that you got this training, that you have this experience. Like if you know them that well, they know deep down inside that you can help them get out of it.
Yeah. And I mean, people don't necessarily know what they're looking for. They just know what their problem is. Well, maybe they don't even know what their problem is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
But they know that they feel the same way that you're saying. Like if you're describing what the issue is or what it is that you're helping with, then they know that they align with that. And so, then the next part of it, I agree with you, is that really it's a matter of just staying top of mind, so that when they are feeling a certain thing, they're like, oh yeah, Katie was talking about that. Right.
Exactly. Well, and here's my other philosophy is that small businesses do not have a marketing problem. They don't. Like you and I are not sitting around and thinking about how we're going to spend our next billion on the Super Bowl ad that we're going to like get Beyonce in. Right. Well, maybe you are. I don't know anything about the back end of your business.
Nope.
I'm not. But we don't have a marketing problem. We have a memorability problem. If people don't remember that we exist, there's no way that they can give us their money for our service. Bottom line. So if we can just, even if they remember us, because like a lot of people remember me because I'm a major Harry Potter nerd and I love my dog Luna. And she's named after a Harry Potter character. And if they just happen to like remember that I'm a business strategist and I help people start their businesses, and they have a cousin who is starting a law office or something, they may say, hey, I know this lady, Katie, she talks about her dog a lot, but she's really good at helping people start businesses.
Yeah. And that's what people want to see too. They want to see that you're a person. And I've recently been working harder on trying to, create stories for Instagram and for Facebook. And it is really hard to keep on trying to come up with new ways to talk about your business, right? Because like once you say it once, you've said it once, like you keep on posting that same thing over and over again. And I found that very difficult, and I ended up just not doing it. Right. And then it kind of like it came to me through many of my guests that maybe I should just post lifestyle mostly, right? Mm-hmm. Just, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm eating, here's what and those are the things that annoyed me. I remember when people post pictures of their food and all that stuff. But then I noticed that I keep looking at them myself. Right. And totally. So it works, obviously. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So on Instagram, my philosophy here is, there are 3 different modalities people get to connect with you. There's the grid posts, which really people go to find out more about you and what you're offering. There's the reels now where they go to see themselves. They want to really see that empathic marketing, understand that you understand them on a super deep level. And then there's the stories where that like friendship trust is built, where you're sharing pictures about your dog, or, this French toast that you had at this amazing breakfast place on vacation, because it's like, oh, cool. They get to react to that in a low pressure way where they don't have to sound smart. They don't have to act like they already know what you're talking about, like they would if they're, reacting to something in your grid.
Right.
It's that difference of, I don't know anything about cars. So when my check engine light goes on, I just have to go to the mechanic and say, you deal with this. If I had to know the problem before I went to the mechanic, that would create an insane amount of pressure and burden on me. Before I even went to the mechanic, I would probably just like run the car into the ground and then have to buy a new one.
Interesting. Yeah. No, you're right. You'd try to figure it out first.
Right.
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 Whereas checking engine light, I'm the same way. I don't know much about cars either. Check engine light comes on, I call my mechanic immediately. Right. I'm like, do you think I should bring it in? Yeah, you should bring it in. Okay, fine.
Honestly, half the time it's that I haven't gotten an oil change in way too long, and my car's just like, please, I'm so thirsty.
Yeah. So now, what about the jam room? So where do you jam?
Yeah, so I have a really nice apartment in Philadelphia, and I've kind of made each room its own little workspace. So in my bedroom, I have like this comfy chair that's right by my bookshelf where I go and do a lot of my writing. I also do a lot of like my research reading there. And I just find it like really comfy and quiet. And it's in the back of my apartment, so it's away from the street sounds, and it's just where I do a lot of really deep thinking. I also have a desk in my guest room, which I haven't gotten it completely organized because I just moved in like January. I know that's like 8 months ago, but we're just going to pretend it was just recently, where I will be doing a lot of my recording, a lot of my lives. I actually have this big neon sign that says, "Stop being a weenie." That will be in my background for all of my lives going forward. Really excited about that. And then I do a lot of my work, honestly, in my living space. So I'm a walker and talker, and I do most of my client calls on the phone. And so I will just do laps around my kitchen island, as I'm coaching clients.
Yeah.
And I love working from my couch.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it great to be able to work from multiple places in your house, right?
It's so nice. And it's just, I'm kind of thinking about getting like a shared workspace for one day a week when I'm, back in Philadelphia, because I'm summering on Cape Cod right now.
Yeah.
But just because I'm an extrovert and I miss that human experience of being at the office and being around people. But yep. I honestly, I'm a homebody also. And I just love being at home and getting to serve my clients in really profound ways, from the comfort of my couch.
Well, I looked into the shared workspaces as well. I know my partner had one for a while when I first met her, and uh, the thing is that if you are going to get a shared workspace, really a coffee shop works just as well
Right.
because you don't have to pay for it, and also you can meet new people all the time. Whereas the
Yeah.
shared workspace is the same people over and over again. And in that case, I mean, I think that the shared workspace is useful if you don't have a place where you can concentrate at at your house.
Hmm.
But other than that, I love coffee shops. Those are great for me. Uh,
Yeah. I find coffee shops, I get there and I get excited about socializing. This is the problem with being an extrovert. Is I get excited about socializing and there's this chance I may never talk to this person again. So I really
yeah.
want to, be in the moment and talk to them. Whereas if I'm going to a shared workspace, like I know I'm going to bump into them again. So it's not like now or never to talk to them.
Gotcha. That's cool. Okay. Well, speaking of people around you, like what about your band? Like, so who do you have that is helping you make things happen?
Yeah. So I have this amazing marketing ops guy named Tyler Cook. He's out of Arizona. He and I have worked together literally since I started my business, and he has been one of the biggest supporters of my success in growing this. I can figure out some tech stuff, but I, any like marketing sequence or email sequence or setting up that back end is just absolutely beyond me. And he just makes it so simple to break it down. And he'll advise me, like, if I have an idea for something, he'll say, hold on, like what you're talking about is a great idea, but you need to slow it down because we're talking about 4 weeks of prep work before you can launch this. And I know I'm talking to a lot of serial entrepreneurs out there who are really used to laying track as the train is coming. And he's been integral in training me to stop doing that because when you can't do that at scale.
No,
And I
no.
know he's going to be supporting me to my first 7 figures, and he's absolutely phenomenal. Another member of my team is Rhea Pierce. She's actually out of the UK, which I absolutely love working with someone who's 5 hours ahead of me. Because one of the benefits is that, late at night, if I have a thought of this needs to be done, or if I drop a lead magnet that I want done for the next day, send it off to her. By the time I wake up in the morning, it's already her afternoon.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So she's more than likely already gotten to it, or farmed it out to one of her VAs who supports her.
Yeah, I've got the unfortunate so I'm at the very far east of Canada and the state. I'm that person that you're looking for, really.
Right.
So it's really hard for me to find somebody who's ahead of me. I'd have to go into Europe, right? In order for
Right.
that to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. Likewise, I have Jess Bruno who helps me with my Instagram. We're actually doing a whole revamp right now. She's an incredible Instagram strategist, just really customizes her experience for each client based on their personality and everything that they want to accomplish. And then of course, Helen Marino, who is my booker, and she gets me booked on podcasts. She's also just recently gotten trained as an SEO copywriter, and I utilize her services. She's incredible. Like my website ranking has climbed dramatically
Nice.
for the keywords that I need in the time that she's been writing my blog.
Wow. How'd you
Yeah.
find all these people?
Helen and I have known each other since 2016. Do you know the author Jen Sincero? She wrote You Are a Badass.
No, I don't, but I'm gonna write that
Okay.
down.
I highly recommend that book. She also has a money book, You're a Badass at Making Money. So anyway, she had this accountability group that she launched, and Helen and I were like 2 of a couple thousand who signed up for it. And in that group, another woman organized like a smaller mastermind group, and it was 5 women, and we literally met every week for 2 years. And the
Wow.
pandemic kind of got in the way of it because, there was just so much going on and everyone was virtual the whole time. But Helen and I just really hit it off. We've met once. She lives in Austin, Texas. She's the most lovely human being you'll ever meet. Tyler, I met, he was working for a bigger company that was terrible when I first met him. But he and I really hit it off. Jess Bruno was introduced to me by Leah Turner. who is an Instagram trainer and coach, and I highly recommend her as well. And then Jess actually introduced me to Ree.
Love it.
So
Your
I'm big on
networking pays off.
yeah, exactly.
Right on. Well, I'm excited to hear your solo. So it's time for your solo. What's exciting in your business?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've really moved my business from just offering one-on-one coaching and strategy to doing a group offering. Because one of the things that I value highly in my business is accessibility. And I know dropping a couple $1,000s a month on a one-on-one coach is not accessible to a lot of people who are just starting out. And so in my group program, BYOB, Build Your Own Business, I am very intentional about training on the basic business building skills like holistic selling, empathetic marketing, your relationship with money, how to do your market research. And I do so in a way that's no fluff. Because one of the ways that we get to be more accessible to people is we don't take up a ton of their time. So I don't know about you, but I have this major pet hate about online courses where it's like they have 40 hours of videos and each video is 40 minutes. And in each 40-minute video, there's only about 5 minutes of something useful. So you have to listen to 35 minutes of freaking fluff.
Yeah.
And that's exhausting. I don't have time for that. My clients don't have time for that. So my videos in this training program are the no fluff promise. It's straight and to the point. And then I offer group coaching. And in my group coaching, I keep it a small group because I want to be able to turn to you, Tim, and be like, okay, cool. So you want to run a webinar. This is how you should do it. And Amanda, if you're going to run a webinar, here's how you should do it. And Mark, if you want to run a webinar, that you're going to do it kind of similar to both of them, but you're going to do it with this energy behind it. Because I really want to give that custom element. And my goal with this group is really to get people from making $0, like they have an idea, they kind of know what they want to do, to making their first 5K month. And then from there, if they want to scale beyond that, then I would graduate them into my one-on-one work. But this BYOB group is really what I'm so passionate about right now, because I think especially we're, going into an economic downturn currently. But people still want to start their businesses. Let's make it easy for them.
Well, historically, some of the biggest businesses out there have all gotten started during downturns. So a downturn is a great time to start a business, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially if you're supporting people.
Yeah.
If you're supporting people, coaching is one of the best industries to get into in a downturn because people are freaking out. They need the support.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, with we talked about it earlier, with uncertainty in the job markets, I mean, you're going to feel that uncertainty no matter what you do. So why not, if you're the type that likes to take control, now would be a great time to take control.
100%.
So now, so the ideal person for you that would get the most value out of your programs would be who?
Someone who knows what they want to do. They know the kind of service that they want to do, but they have no idea what questions to even ask to put it together. For instance, one of my clients in BYOB is a journaling coach. She knew that she wanted to help people journal, but there's no one else doing something like that. So what we've put together is her offer. We've actually put together 2 offers, a group program and a one-on-one program, and helped her price it, helped her figure out, how to do her ideal client marketing for it, so that she can go and do empathetic marketing where she's saying, hey, I see you, and here's what you're stressed out about, and here's what you want to have in your life, but here's where you're getting stuck.
Wow.
And so it's really a bumper to bumper program. The only thing I don't cover is accounting because I don't like that part. I'm also not certified or trained at all in it. So.
That's okay. I mean, hey, you can hire somebody for accounting for sure. Awesome. So how do we find out more?
So if anyone wants to find out more, they can go to katiemcmanus.com, and that's KATIEMCMANUS.com. And then also if there's any listeners out there who are working a full-time job and want to start a coaching business on the side, I have this really fun 7-step guide about how to build that business up to 5K a month while you're still working your 9 to 5. And I am happy to share the link here also.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for rocking out with me today, Katie. I'll make sure I put that link in the show notes so that people can get a hold of that. And yeah, this was a lot of fun.
This was so much fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Right on. And to the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment, and we'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar podcast.